Have you ever picked up a loaf of bread because the front of the package promised whole grain, healthy, or made with natural ingredients, and felt confident you were making a smart choice? What if some of the most recognizable bread brands in America are relying more on clever marketing than truly nutritious recipes? The truth is, not all bread is created equal. Some loaves are packed with added sugars, refined flour, preservatives, and sodium, while others deliver real whole grains, fiber, and ingredients you can actually recognize. Today, we're taking a closer look at 10 popular U.S. bread brands that nutrition experts often suggest limiting or avoiding, followed by 3 brands that consistently stand out as healthier choices. And before we reach the end, you'll discover one simple trick that can help you judge almost any loaf in less than 30 seconds. Bread has been a staple food for thousands of years. But modern supermarket bread is often very different from the simple combination of flour, water, salt, and yeast that people once baked at home. Today's bread aisle is filled with brightly colored packaging, bold health claims, and long ingredient lists. Some products are designed to stay soft for weeks, while others prioritize taste over nutrition. That's why the label on the front rarely tells the full story. One of the first brands worth examining is Wonder Bread. For generations, it has been one of America's most recognizable sandwich breads. Its soft texture and mild flavor have made it a household favorite. But nutritionally, it's hard to ignore that traditional Wonder Bread is primarily made from enriched white flour. Much of the natural fiber found in whole grains has already been removed during processing. Fiber plays an important role in digestion and helps people feel full longer. Without much of it, white bread is digested more quickly, which can lead to faster spikes in blood sugar. While Wonder Bread does contain added vitamins and minerals through enrichment, that doesn't fully replace what is naturally lost during refining. Another familiar name is Sara Lee's classic white bread. Like many traditional white breads, it is made mainly with refined flour and often contains added sugar, dough conditioners, and preservatives to improve texture and shelf life. None of these ingredients automatically make a loaf dangerous, but they do make it less appealing compared to breads that rely on simpler recipes and whole grains. If white bread is an occasional treat, that's one thing. But making it your daily choice may mean missing out on valuable nutrients. Then there's nature's own butter bread. The name alone creates the impression of comfort and homemade flavor. Yet the ingredient list often includes refined flour, added sweeteners, and relatively modest amounts of fiber. Many consumers assume that because a loaf doesn't taste particularly sweet, it contains very little sugar. In reality, several popular sandwich breads include added sugars to improve flavor, texture, and browning during baking. Here's where things become interesting. Some breads wear a healthy disguise. A loaf may appear brown, feature images of wheat fields, or include words like multigrain on the package. But unless the first ingredient is listed as whole wheat or another whole grain, the bread may still be mostly refined flour with caramel coloring or small amounts of grain added for appearance. Take Pepperidge Farm Farmhouse white bread as another example. It's known for its rich flavor and thick slices. However, many varieties remain based primarily on refined flour and contain added sugar and sodium levels that can add up quickly if you're eating multiple slices every day. Again, this doesn't make it harmful in moderation, but it may not be the healthiest everyday option. Next comes Sunbeam white bread. Soft, familiar, and inexpensive, it shares many of the same nutritional concerns seen across traditional white breads. Limited fiber, refined grains, and added ingredients make it less satisfying and less nutrient-dense than breads made primarily from whole grains. At this point, you might be wondering whether every affordable loaf belongs on this list. Not necessarily. Price alone doesn't determine quality. In fact, some reasonably priced whole wheat breads outperform premium brands. That's why reading the ingredient list matters more than trusting advertising. Let's look at another example: bunny bread. Popular in many parts of the country, it has a nostalgic appeal. Yet many of its classic varieties rely heavily on enriched white flour and include added sugars and preservatives. These characteristics are common across many mainstream sandwich breads designed for long shelf life and soft texture. Another brand that often raises similar nutritional concerns is Country Kitchen white bread. Once again, refined flour is the main ingredient, while fiber remains relatively low. If your goal is improving heart health, keeping blood sugar more stable, or simply increasing your daily fiber intake, there are much stronger options available. But we're not done yet, because two more familiar brands complete this list, and one of them might surprise you. Next is Aunt Millie's white bread. Depending on the variety, nutritional quality can vary. But several classic white versions continue the same pattern we've seen throughout this list. Refined grains remain the foundation, while added sugars and preservatives help extend freshness. None of this makes the bread unsafe to eat, but it does make it less nutritious than many consumers assume. Another brand that often surprises shoppers is Martin's potato bread. Its soft texture and slightly sweet flavor have earned it a loyal following across the country. But despite its name, potato bread isn't automatically healthier. In many recipes, potatoes make up only a small portion of the loaf, while refined wheat flour and added sugars remain the dominant ingredients. That combination creates a delicious bread, but not necessarily the best choice if you're trying to maximize nutrition. Finally, there's King's Hawaiian sweet bread. These rolls have become a favorite for sliders, holiday dinners, and backyard cookouts. Their signature sweetness is exactly what makes them so popular. But that sweetness also comes from noticeably higher amounts of added sugar than you'll find in many standard sandwich breads. They're excellent for special occasions, but probably not the loaf you want to rely on every single day. Now here's something important that often gets lost in discussions like this. None of these brands are unsafe, in the sense that they're dangerous or shouldn't be sold. They all meet food safety regulations. The real issue is nutrition. Many consumers buy them believing they're making a healthy everyday choice, when in reality they're getting refined grains, lower fiber, added sugars, and long ingredient lists. That's a very different conversation than claiming a product is harmful. So what should you look for instead? The first standout is Dave's Killer Bread. Many of its varieties are built around whole grains and seeds that naturally increase both fiber and protein. The texture is heartier, the ingredients are generally more recognizable, and it tends to leave you feeling satisfied longer. While some varieties still contain modest amounts of added sugar, they consistently offer better overall nutrition than many traditional white breads. Another excellent option is Ezekiel chapter 4 verse 9 sprouted grain bread. Instead of relying primarily on refined flour, it's made with sprouted grains and legumes. Sprouting changes the grain before milling and helps create a loaf that's rich in fiber, protein, vitamins, and minerals. Its dense texture isn't for everyone, but many people appreciate it for its nutritional profile. The third recommendation is Silver Hills Sprouted Bakery. Like Ezekiel, many of its breads focus on sprouted whole grains with relatively simple ingredient lists. They typically provide meaningful amounts of fiber while avoiding much of the heavy processing found in many conventional sandwich breads. But here's the biggest takeaway from this entire video. Even if none of these healthier brands are available where you shop, you can still make a better decision in less than 30 seconds. Ignore the marketing on the front. Turn the loaf around. Read the ingredient list first. If the very first ingredient says, whole wheat, whole grain, or another whole grain, that's usually a good sign. Next, check the fiber. More fiber generally means a more nutritious loaf. Then compare added sugars. Less is usually better for an everyday bread. Finally, look at the overall ingredient list. While longer lists aren't automatically bad, breads with simpler, recognizable ingredients are often less processed. One of the biggest misconceptions is that brown bread is always healthy and white bread is always unhealthy. In reality, some brown breads are little more than refined white bread with coloring or small amounts of grain added for appearance. That's why the ingredient list tells you far more than the color of the loaf ever will. The bread aisle can seem overwhelming, but once you know how to read a label, you'll never shop the same way again. Instead of being influenced by attractive packaging and health claims, you'll be choosing bread based on facts that actually matter. At the end of the day, bread itself isn't the problem. It's the type of bread, and how often you eat it, that makes the biggest difference. Choosing loaves with whole grains, higher fiber, lower added sugars, and fewer unnecessary additives can be a simple step toward a healthier diet without giving up one of America's favorite foods. So the next time you're standing in front of that endless wall of bread, remember this video. Spend just 30 extra seconds reading the label before putting a loaf into your cart. That small habit could make a much bigger difference than any slogan printed on the front of the package. And if you enjoy uncovering the truth behind everyday foods and the products we trust, be sure to subscribe, because our next investigation might completely change the way you shop.